is the Celebrity Afterlife Report podcast.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Celebrity Afterlife Report. We took last week off for the Thanksgiving holiday, but we're back with more gossip about all your favorite deceased celebrities, and I do hope that your holiday was as much fun as mine was. I am your host, the Celebrity Medium. Okay, let's not waste any time getting right to it. Director-comedian Mike Nichols transitioned to the next world last week. As with a minority of new arrivals, there was a delay between when Nichols departed the earthly plane and his arrival in the afterlife. And possibly as a result of that, his arrival went mostly unnoticed. I'm told by my sources that only Keith Moon, former drummer for The who acts as a guide for the newly arrived, was on hand to greet him. Nichols, I'm informed, took his quiet reception in stride, joking to Moon, quote, "Looks like the premiere of my last movie," unquote. The drummer assured him that the absence of well-wishers was because many of the American residents of the next world were at home celebrating Thanksgiving. Nichols, joking, asked if there was a parade for the holiday, and Moon told him that yes, there was. The director then asked where the parade was, and Moon led him off to it. I'm told that the two spent the rest of the day enjoying the parade together and having Thanksgiving dinner at the home of one of Moon's friends. Nichols is reported to have told the assembled guest that he was thankful for being greeted to his new existence so warmly, and that he had a lot of ideas for projects he would like to get off the ground as soon as he got his bearings. Former Washington D.C. Mayor Marion Barry also transitioned to the afterlife the other day. Although Barry was a respected community leader in the early days of his political career, he is probably best known, unfortunately, for his arrest by the FBI for possession of crack cocaine in a D.C. motel room. Upon his arrival in the next world, he was greeted by a large crowd of former constituents, as well as the expected greeter to the stars, James Brown. Once he got over his shock at arriving in his new existence, Barry went into full politician mode, moving to the crowd, shaking hands with the men, and kissing the women on the cheek. When he was finally done with the glad handing, one of my afterlife paparazzi contacts approached the mayor and asked if he had any plans for the future. Barry said that given the reception he had received, he might have to consider running for political office again. According to the source, Barry seemed crestfallen when he was informed that there are no political offices in the next world. He recovered nicely, though, by laughing and saying, well, maybe we need to change that. Given that he ran for and won a seat on the D.C. City Council after he was forced out of the mayor's office because of his crack arrest, he might be charismatic enough to do just that. Okay, we've covered two new arrivals to the afterlife who are still getting their bearings. It's time to move on to an ongoing story about someone who's been a Next World resident for some time now. If you're a regular listener to the report, you know what's been going on with Andy Kaufman. If you're new to the report, I will attempt to recap this for you. Andy was a huge fan of Elvis Presley when the two were on the earthly plane. In the afterlife, Elvis was as popular as he was before his death, so much so that he had to go into hiding to avoid his rabid fans. Unfortunately for the king, some afterlife tabloid reporters caught on to his disguise and ran photos of him, causing him to once again be hounded by those who desperately wanted him to return to the stage. Enter Andy Kaufman. The comedian was Elvis's favorite impersonator when the two were on the earthly plane. Elvis recruited Andy to go on a tour as Elvis Two to satisfy his fans. Andy eagerly agreed with the stipulation that his alter ego, Tony Clifton, be the opening act at all of the venues. A few shows into the tour, however, it became obvious to Presley that Tony's disruptive behavior was a problem. Andy promised to speak to Clifton about it, and things settled down. For a while. Okay, that brings you up to speed. Now, the new twist on the story is that Andy, as himself, not as Elvis Two, has been coming on stage to confront Clifton when Tony seems to be heading in the direction of antagonizing the audience. Clifton, as anyone who has ever seen him will expect, has not been taking well to Kaufman's interruptions. Where this insanity is heading is anyone's guess, but we will be keeping an eye on this story as it progresses wherever it goes. Former member of Congress and husband of Cher, Sonny Bono, has been a resident of the next world since his death in a skiing accident. From the reports I've received, Sonny has been keeping a low profile until now, content to just enjoy his new existence. That seems destined to change, however, now that he has announced his plans for a new business. According to several sources, it seems that Sonny has decided that what the Afterlife really needs is its own version of the White Castle chain. For those unfamiliar with White Castle, it's a chain of 24-hour fast food restaurants that features small, square hamburgers. Very popular with the after-bar weekend crowd, White Castles have been a mainstay of the Northeast United States for decades. Bono, as it turns out, has long loved sliders, as the Castle's burgers are affectionately known, and thinks that others in the next world will appreciate them as well. Now, on the earthly plane, of course, starting a new chain with the name White Castle would open one up to a massive lawsuit, but there's no such concern in the afterlife. Bono expects to open the first of many White Castle locations in the next several months. Okay, that's it for the Celebrity Afterlife Report for this week. Please come back next week when we'll have another roundup of the latest gossip about all your favorite deceased celebrities as told to me by my Next World paparazzi contacts. I am the Celebrity Medium. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Celebrity Afterlife Report podcast. To ask a question about your favorite deceased celebrity, call 818-3-MY-DREAM. 818-3-MY-DREAM. 818-369-3732.